So, yeah. Hi, Mark. Nice to see you.
Good
It's
morning.
good morning. Yeah, for you, good morning. For me, good afternoon. I just want to show just um, two slides for the audience to get a bit of an idea who you are. And you're from the Netherlands, a former competitive Latin dancer, and you're an ancient historian and ritual scholar, currently completing your PhD at Charles University in Prague. Back in ancient medicine and ritual studies. So, yeah, congratulations. You're nearly to the end there, is it? Yeah.
Yes, just some more technical revisions. Last
Um,
chapter is coming now, and then hopefully everything will be okay.
yeah, I was excited about these rituals in dance. And I just want to, I mean, you're the specialist in it. I thought let's have a sort of a TED talk about that, about rituals in dance. Maybe you can start. Well, how do you see that developing, or how could we use in our dance world in ballroom and Latin? How could we apply that? How would you see that? Or maybe you want to first say a bit more about what rituals entails. What does it mean?
Well, I work from the field of ritual studies, which is
Yeah.
an interdisciplinary platform developed in the 80s.
Hmm.
And it approaches rituals from all kinds of disciplines, from history to philosophy, from economics to politics. And every scholar can make their own definition about rituals. What the most important thing is that there's a large consensus that rituals are always changing and developing, and we call that ritual dynamics.
Yeah.
And that's
Can I
easily
ask something about that? That why is the changing so important for the ritual dynamics?
the change is very important to keep the ritual alive.
Mm,
If you would remain in doing always the same thing, then eventually it would die out, and the ritual would disappear. So it is very important to implement constant change and new aspects to keep it alive. In my own study of ancient ritual, there is constant change of figures, of landscapes, of
mm,
times, periods. So that keeps it alive.
uh-huh.
And when I would apply this to dance, then I would apply also the changing dynamic of dance. Everyone dances a choreography, but that still needs to change all the time to keep the dance alive, to innovate things, to improve the movements, to improve the performance of the
Yeah.
dancers. And therefore, it's necessary to keep it constantly developing and changing, dependent on the dance you are performing on the dance floor.
And is that a risk? Is there a risk that the constant changing loses the original or authentic style of the ritual, or how do I see that? Or how do you see that?
Uh, no, I think everyone knows the core of the dance. Everyone knows what samba is or what rumba is. You know what
Mm,
it's all about. But when you constantly change the surroundings, the choreography, the energy, the synergy, that keeps the dance alive. I think if I would make it more broad and approach it as ritual, then dance would become a sacred act performed on a dance floor as a secluded space. What is very important and what's quite different from just normal dancing and practicing is that the couple has to transcend themselves into the dance themselves. So they have to put aside their own selves, their identities, and become the identity of dance. And if you look at it that way, then you get a whole another vision on how to create a
mm,
performance together
yeah,
on the floor.
I get that. I mean, if the way I would say it, which is might be similar, or you mean something different, is that the dancer becomes the dance. You're not busy expressing yourself, you're expressing the dance, and you and the dance becomes actually embodied and one. And you could nearly say it's a sense of selflessness, and I'm becoming that, the actual dance itself. Do I have to see it similar like that as you are explaining, or slightly?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, I would also name it as holism, as a holistic approach to dance.
Mhm.
So it's all about the couple. They have to set the performance
Yeah.
together. The audience has no role in this for a moment. They can watch from the side and how
Yeah.
these two people create together this beautiful dance.
Mhm.
But from a holistic point of view, then of course there is a trainer who teaches you the choreography, energy, synergy, movements, the right clothes, now, etc., etc. But you can call it a holistic approach where two people has to become the dance and perform the narrative of the dance through the performance, through their movements, being aware where they are on the floor, what others are doing, where they are, and then create a whole new narrative about the dance.
Yeah. And with narrative, you mean a sort of a red line through the work, and that could be energy, could be shape, could be a little story, could be movement for kinetic sake, or you mean narrative as narrative?
I mean, both actually. So every dance has a history. Every dance has historical development. Samba was brought to Europe from slaves, for example. If you want to follow that line, how would you portray that in a choreography on the floor, where, of course, the round amount of energy in that movement, the round amount of synergy, and all that has to fit the idea of the choreographer, but also the dancers have to be able to perform it with their own bodies, trying
Yeah.
to embody that whole concept of
Yeah.
dance.
So are you, correct me if I picture that differently than you intend, that you are saying it's not like the normal thing. Today we're going to learn the samba roll, but you might start with, why does the samba exist? What relationship is being expressed? What are we trying to create together? What is happening in the in-between? Is that a bit, that gets a bit much more deeper than just the steps and the actual technique of it?
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
To my opinion, if I was a trainer of couples, I would first ask them if they know why we have samba, why we have cha-cha, why we have a quick step, now, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Being aware of its history, being aware of its developments, what other kinds of cha-chas are there, for example, to do, and how can we choose elements of that to create a choreography. Of
Yeah.
course, every couple dances samba rolls, every couple dances whisks, or no,
Yeah.
etc., etc. But it's about being aware of the identity of the dance, of maybe of the self of the dance, and try to make it your own and create a whole new holistic approach, transcending above your own identities and just becoming the dance itself. Of course, you need good technique. Without good technique, it does look bad. But it's more than just moving on music. It's more than just follow instructions from a teacher from now do a Latin cross there and do a turn there.
Yeah.
So I would call that ritualism. From I'm moving, but I don't believe in what I'm doing. I'm not convinced of the functionalism of the importance of what we do. If you would
Yeah.
approach dance as ritual, then everything you do, if it's a movement or a look or a turn, everything has to have a function, and you have to be convinced of its importance to succeed. Because in the end, on the side, there are judges who will watch you and they decide, okay, who I'm going to write down for the next round. So that is still important. And if I were a judge on the floor, I want to see that from a couple.
It's a sense of, creating an an energy and ritual which is bigger than just yourself, but in the relationship, the function of it, and that it is transcendence of you into that dance. It becomes a creation, and you set that up. We also, when we talked a bit before we had this session online, I was also interesting about this liminal sacred space. So that's like I call it, is it a transition space? What does it really mean? Does it mean like we would in the theater stand behind the curtains before we walk on, or in the dressing room, I'm having a transition space before I enter, and in this transition space, I become, or is it another meaning?
It's liminality is coined by Victor van Gennep and Victor Turner, and it actually means in transition from
Yeah.
one state to another state. So you have to lose yourself to create a new self, and you can see it in this way. On the day of your competition, you first have to do some preparatory rites, acts. So you wake up, you shower, you choose the outfit you need, you make sure you have the food with you, you have the right shoes, etc. Then you travel to the competition hall. You go to the desk. Here we are. We are that and that. Okay, this is your number. And when you are there, that is then the liminal space, the dancing hall, the dance floor. You are near it. Then you can choose to prepare you mentally. Some couples are training beside the floor in their own clothes, or maybe a training suit, to get into the emotion of the dance and the mental state. Other couples first just walk around, eat something, talk to other people. But you're working to the moment that you have to make the transition from being just a normal person into a dancer.
Yeah.
Mentally, that's very important. So you have to be aware, okay, this is what's going to happen. We are going to dance on a floor which has everywhere different measurements. Where are we going to stand on the floor? How do we position ourselves? Do we know what we're going to do? So that is very important to create that liminal space where you are on the floor, which is secluded, because of course the audience cannot join on the floor, becoming the dancer, and then from that moment on, make that creation as a couple.
Yeah. And the big difference is, because everybody would say, oh, we all do that. We prepare ourselves and brush our shoes and get our numbers on. But the big thing is the transition from the self into that sacred, let's say it in that your terminology, energy and space, and becoming the dance already in the preparation, in the transition of that preparation to become that, rather
Yes, you
than
have to.
I get ready and I'm nervous and I'm thinking about the results and the steps, things like. Is it that way?
Yes, the results are not important for that moment, and the
Yeah,
steps are of course important, because if you don't know what to do, then you will
yeah,
fail. But you have to, the big difference is that you have to be aware that what you're doing is something special. Dancing is quite something else than playing football or tennis, in my opinion. Everyone wants to be mesmerized by a beautiful couple, beautiful outfits, setting a stage. To me, Mike and Joanna were the ones who changed the paradigm of dance. To me, they created new choreographies, new techniques, where, for example, we all learned in dancing schools, when you turn, you make this movement. And Joanna will start to hold the hands up high, for example, and spinning so fast you can hardly follow her anymore. I think they were the ones who created those magical performances, making new creations of choreographies, and they knew that what they were doing was important, was special, and every time they put down a dance, a performance, they hit it, and that's something which is very important. That's something different from. Okay, are you ready? Do you have
yeah.
the number? Yes. Okay, let's go there, and okay, bye, hello, mom and dad. That's something quite different.
But I think also that's something innovative and new and skillful. I don't see that necessarily as a ritual. What is your view on the ritual then? That's a
That is,
confusion I have. That sort of innovation, that changing. Of course, that everything changes and innovated in this time. But what makes it a ritual can't be just the changes and the innovation.
I think that the innovation and the changes add to what makes a ritual a ritual. And what I said before, you can approach ritual in very different ways, making different concepts.
Yeah,
And for me, a ritual is a bundle of acts which is being executed in more or less the same way.
yeah,
But stylization and functionalism and execution are very important aspects of something's becoming a ritual. Of course, when you have religious rituals, such in my research, it's important to appease a god or a saint
yeah.
to help them. If I would translate that to the dance floor, then I would say that the judge would be the religious figure to whom you're offering your performance to get something in return, and namely to get put through and maybe win at the end the championship.
But it's not even a bad idea. That actually was my excitement. That the ritual has a sense of giving and a sense of energy projecting, and the audience, they're not into that performance, but they perceive the genuine ritualistic feeling and the transcendence of it. And there is a sense of offering. And you could also say the dancers then become the healers of the audience. I think there is something, but that goes on in my fantasy, but I'm not sure if that.
Yes, it's a and the Romans would say it, I give so that you can give me something in return. So it's exchanging of offerings. I offer you a performance of the
Yeah,
dance, and exchange you put me through.
yeah,
And healing is by far the most important of function. And of course, dance can also heal you as a person, but also the atmosphere.
yeah.
So I think you are spot on that point.
But that's so lovely. That takes it so much bigger and wider. That there is a sense of offering, a sense of healing by me being into it, and then you are sending that energy out. That is far more holistic rather than just being so busy with selfish and you know
Yes, and if you approach it dance as a healing ritual, then
yeah,
it also gives a lot of positive energy, not
yeah,
only to yourself but only to the rest in
I
the hall.
like that for sure. Well, that was great to have a little talk. I mean, uh, I'm aware you've done a PhD about it. Just to talk about it for 50 minutes is a bit insulting, but maybe we can do a bit more on another day. But it was
Of
really
course.
definitely excited about this idea of ritual, because to me it has a wider thing. You don't just do the tango, you become in the world of tango and you set that up and an energy, and that's in the invitation in the dance hall, and that becomes something more than just my physical self. And that's quite a spiritual, meaningful exercise. So
Indeed.
I thank you very much for that. That was great. I appreciate it. Thanks,
Yeah,
man. Good luck with your final weeks in this PhD study.
thank you very much for the opportunity to
Uh,
have a talk about rituals, which is always very interesting. And I would love to talk to you on another time
that will be
more
good.
about.
Thanks. Bye bye, Mark.
Bye bye.
Ciao.